Hello everyone, so in this video we'll talk about two set of goggles coming from two different systems for FPV drones. I should have done this video quite a long time ago, but better late than never. So we will do this video now. We'll try to compare the HDZero goggles and the Walksnail Goggles X. We will do a side-by-side comparison based on the hardware, and later on try to show you the difference in their output. They have a big difference in terms of output because they prioritize a different set of problems. So we'll try to see it in this video. Let's try to compare this first based on the hardware. Let's start first with HDZero. This is made out of white plastic. You have a roller here for your menu, and this would be your enter button. On the side is a menu button. On the left part, this is where you plug your battery. I believe it's 2S to 6S. You also have a switch to turn this off or on. So on the right side, you have this compartment here. This is where you put your analog module if ever you want to fly analog. With Walksnail, right off the bat, it doesn't support it. You still need a module that will be mounted on top and plug it using double-sided tape. It's more streamlined with HDZero. Okay, you have 4 antenna. This is our HCP, so right hand. On the bottom part, you have an HDMI in and an HDMI out. So actually, you could use your HDZero goggles to play your video coming from your computer if you want to. Just plug it in the HDMI in, and you can watch it directly to your goggles. You have 3 sets of fans. This 2 fans on the sides ensures that the components here and here are well ventilated. Now for the top part, this is an intake. It does 2 things. One is, of course, it ensures that other components in this part were well ventilated, and at the same time it acts as a ventilator. And as you can see here, there are 2 holes, 1 and 2, and it goes directly to your lens. It acts as a defogging mechanism. For the foam, it uses a similar foam with the Sky Zone goggles. So if you want some third-party option for your foam, you could use the Sky Zone. I never had an issue with overheating, especially if I try to fly in summer. Of course, the temperature is really high. I could fly more than an hour. It was actually well thought of, because with the HDZero, you have this railing system here, future-proofing this. If ever you want, if there would be other company that would create VRX that could go into your HDMI in, it is well supported by HDZero. You just need to put some rails here. You could 3D print it. Another thing is, if you open this up and try to look at the parts of your board, your PCB board, it's just placed in 2 sets here. And these fans really blow a good amount of air to those PCB, keeping your chipsets really under control. At the same time, it's open source. Everything about HDZero goggles is out already. DVMat already shared all of the things, STL file, whatever. So if you want to support an open source system, this is the HDZero goggles for you. Now, this is the Walksnail Goggles X. You have 4 sets of LHCP antenna, a record button here, also acts as your playback button, a back button for your menu, a 5D switch. Now, on the right side, you have your power. On the bottom part, you have a micro SD card and the HDMI in and HDMI out. This 3.5mm headphone jack. This is for AV. If you want to run your analog, have an LED. When you turn it on, that LED strip will turn on. So this could actually be replaced. If you want to use a patch antenna, you could remove this. You only have 2 fans, and I have discussed this a couple times before, and that is one of the problem of the Walksnail Goggles X, it only has two fans. A very strong fan at the right, a very small fan at the bottom. So there is no defogging fan, unfortunately. So most of the time when I'm trying to fly, the right side of my lens is always fogging up because this is very, very warm. And of course, warm air going to your face, sweating, so it creates a moisture pocket here and ultimately making your vision a bit blurry. What Walksnail did is, since there was a problem with overheating, they did a couple of revisions of the Goggles X, and ultimately they decided to use this strong fan and focus the wind to one of the chipset that is causing the overheating issue. If there was no overheating issue, actually the fan here would blow the wind directly on all of the cavity here, making it, of course, lowering down the temperature. But of course, since they did that redesign, it's fogging up on the lens. There's no solution as of the moment unless you want to put some extra fan here. What the Walksnail did is, they actually designed this to be a modular goggles. So if there will be revisions in the future, so basically the goggles will act as a monitor, and there is only a cavity here that you place the VRX. So that VRX, if there's new chipset, improved transmission system, just remove that old VRX, buy the new one, then plug this in, and you have a brand new Walksnail goggles. So basically, that is what they are trying to go with this design. They're trying to future-proof their Goggles X. So they probably just want to create one goggles that fits all of their. But of course, it has its own downsides. The warming up of this Goggles X is not as good as using the HDZero. Here, there's no warming. The fan on the top is really, really strong. You could really hear it while you are flying, especially if you are. Oh yeah, I forgot. With the HDZero, you could actually record your audio. If you plug a microphone here, you could speak directly to your DVR. It's a very, very nice feature wherein you could just record your audio while you're trying to fly. You could speak to the audience while you're flying. One downside is you have a very strong fan and it's really, really loud, so you really need to have a very long microphone. Based on hardware design, just the way it looks, I still prefer the looks of the HDZero. It looks really good. Although, when you look at the Walksnail, it really looks like a snail. So they're trying to embody that design. I just really prefer the matte finish of the HDZero goggles. In terms of materials, I think the Walksnail Goggles X is more premium than the HDZero, especially the foam. I really prefer this kind of foam. This is similar with the DJI goggles too. I really like it. Fits on my face really, really well. Although some people complain about this foam because, of course, I think this is made for Asian face. So there are a lot of complaints about it, but I really, really like this. The HDZero, on the other hand, it's a very cheap foam. This is what they use for the Sky Zone. And it's really, although it's really soft, the materials used is really not that good. Overall, when it comes to design, I just really prefer how the HDZero goggles was designed. It's just that the materials used is really not that premium, in my opinion. Also, the Walksnail does support a VRX when you plug it in via the HDMI in. So you could just 3D print a holder here and put your VRX. For example, you have the Walksnail Goggles X and you want to use an HDZero VRX, you could do so. Just 3D print it. Just 3D print the mount, then paste your HDZero VRX, then plug it into the HDMI in. Now for the screen, both of this does support 100 Hz 1080p. Now the problem lies with the VTX. So let's discuss that. The HDZero has a lower resolution compared with the Walksnail. The HDZero, if you get your VTX, it works on 720p 60 fps. Now if you want to go 100 fps, you will use a different camera, the small VTX and even the big VTX. So it is better than analog because analog is around 480p. So this is almost twice the resolution of analog. So if you will be using the HDZero system, expect that your video is not as crisp as a DJI video or even a Walksnail video. That is a fact. Even if you use the Lux camera, or even if you use the bigger camera, of the quality is really not that good. But in terms of latency, that as I have always said it on my video about HDZero, nothing can beat the HDZero at the moment. HDZero runs very, very similar to analog. So whatever you see on your video, it's actually happening in real time. There is no delay from the antenna going to the chipset, then going to your screen, which is why it is called HDZero. So that is how they designed this. So if you are trying to find a system with a very, very small amount of latency, nothing can beat the HDZero goggles at the moment. In terms of video quality, it's really not that good. Think about analog, then multiply that by 2. Basically, you have HDZero video. If you are running tiny whoops, they have a very small all-in-one board. I think Walksnail will be following soon about this because there are leaks about it. But at the moment, HDZero all-in-one board is the smallest and the lightest HD system that you could use without the need for an extra flight controller. Okay, some will argue that HDZero can support 1080p. Yes, it can, but up to 30 frames per second only. So it also depends on the camera. You have to adjust your camera so that there are some limitation on the current cameras when it comes to 1080p. Most of the time, I'm using the 720p on HDZero. The Walksnail Goggles X, the quality is, you could put it at 1080p, but with the recent Moonlight kit, you increase it to 4K because of the camera that they used. With the 1S VTX and their HD Pro VTX, it's just 1080p, but it supports up to 100 FPS as well. The quality, it's on par with the DJI system, so you could expect a better quality of the video. You could use it on your social media. I try to upload a lot of videos about the 1S VTX. Only the Moonlight kit has an onboard stabilization. The rest, it's either you go with gyro flow or it doesn't have it, because most of them doesn't have a gyro data on their camera. Between the two, if you're trying to look for video quality, of course, the Walksnail system has a better video quality. But if you're trying to look for a system that has a very, very low latency, especially if you're trying to do freestyle move or you're doing racing, you go with HDZero. So basically, that is the difference and somewhat similarity between the HDZero goggles and the Walksnail Goggles X. I had a good experience using both of this. Even the VTX that I have, I had no issue using both of this system. I had a lot of fun using them for my tiny whoops and for my micro drones. It will really depend which would you prioritize, if it's video quality or focus on latency. Because at the end of the day, whatever you choose, you will be stuck on that system. They are not interchangeable. So just ensure that if you will go to one system, you are really invested on that system and you believe on what they could offer. Otherwise, you just get both of them and then you decide on your own. Because at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide which is more important for you. We will end the video here. Hope to see you in the next video. Happy flying. Take care.